Hey, it's John and Mike for DashNews.com, and now it's time to go back in the old Wayback Machine and look back and say, hey, yeah, we picked from the Jar of Destiny back in the beginning of the year, very early in January. It was pick number 13. Two beers were chosen, and this is Mike's beer. Do you remember the category and all of that?
3C, Czech Lager.
Oh,
Czech Amber Lager.
Czech.
3C.
Czech Lager. I get you.
If you remember back in 2023, I had 3D, I believe it is, which is Czech Dark Lager.
Ah, yes. I recall.
So there we are.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Well, tell us more about
Czech Amber
Czech
Lager.
Amber Lager, yeah.
This is supposed to be, obviously, a slightly lighter version of the Dark Lager. It's supposed to have still a malt character, maybe a touch of caramel, but it'd be a slightly lighter drinking experience. It's going to still have that zippy European hop character. In my opinion, more the Czech style of these beers, even the Czech Pils or whatever, these things are, moderately hoppy, but that zippiness is super important. So this recipe, this is 63% Type 1 Munich, okay, which is like 7 level bond.
Okay.
Yep. We can talk about that.
Yep.
And then I also used, then it's 32% just to lighten the Munich load up a little bit. It's 32% Pilsner malt. It's actually the Weyermann Bohemian Pilsner malt, because it's supposed to be fancier, a little bit more fancy malt character, but should still be crisp. And then 5%, which is where a fair amount of this color coming from, 5% is Caraaroma malt, which I'd never used before, but when in the research, doing the reading, very popular for darker lagers, supposed to carry a lot more of that melanoid-y thing, even though it's called Caraaroma. It is a crystal style malt, whatever. And that comes in at about 170 level bond is what that is. When I was brewing it, at the end of the mash, I wasn't, so 63, 32, 5, that'll add up to 100%. But at the end of the mash, I wasn't totally satisfied with the color. So I just came in a 3.5 gallon batch. I came in with just over an ounce of Carafa Special III that I crushed really fine, top mashed, and continued to recirculate just to try to pull myself a little bit more color. We'll talk about that. Hops for this thing, it's a full ounce of Czech Saaz, at just under 3% alpha, so 2.9 alpha acid for 60 minutes. Then at flame out, I threw in 2 full ounces of Saaz, 2.9%, whatever. Because I brewed this back in the end of January, it was really cold here, so I employed no chill. So that's why I did flame out, which is probably not necessarily traditional for this, but I figured flame out, no chill, it would probably give me in that zone for the flavor quality I was looking for. I fermented this. I made a starter with Wyeast 2278 Czech Pils, which is the same yeast I used to do the Czech Dark Lager. Nice. Mash schedule, I mashed in at 145. Then I ramped up to 150 for 15 minutes, and I ramped to mash out at 168, held that for 15 minutes. And yeah, so just trying to go for ultimate fermentability there. Starting gravity was 1052, finishing gravity was 1015 for a total ABV of about 4.9. And this was spring water with just a couple grams of calcium chloride and a couple grams of sulfate to just favor sulfate a little bit more, just to give some crispness. I'll tell you this, the estimated color from Beersmith on this is 14 SRM.
What's the style range?
I don't remember what the range is, but for comparison's sake, I brought out my Dark Lager recipe. Yeah. That beer was 23 SRM, okay? So
a little lighter.
Just to give you some perspective there.
All right. Well, let's start with the evaluation. For the looking at the appearance, I think as it clears, it's going to get a little more red highlights. Certainly is an amber color up against the light.
Yep.
Persistent head. Kind of off-white. On the nose, getting some of that Saaz. You said Saaz. Saaz spiciness.
Yeah, spiciness. That's the zippiness I refer to.
Yeah, the zippiness, and we'll talk about that in the flavor. And then followed with, bready, malty notes. That is good stuff.
It's like bread crusts.
Yeah.
but not over the top, I don't think, right? I think that if I remember the dark lager, a little more pronounced.
Yeah,
a little more deeper toast, but not roasty. It's like just deep toast.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, like out of the oven, like a bread loaf, which is wonderful because it makes you want to drink it. I think you can tell I'm already halfway through it. Very refreshing. I was a little thirsty coming over here, but at the same time, let's talk about the flavor. I would say on the very start, those malts hit you. It's wonderful. Aftertaste, or in the swallow, that's where the zippiness is.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of the carbonation. You get a lot of the spicy Saaz. I recognize it right out of the gate. I'm like, okay, it's Czech.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm getting the Saaz hops. And then it lingers in the aftertaste. It's not overly bitter. It's more spicy. Certainly a noble hop experience, I think. Definitely more spice than, say, floral, more spice than, say, earthy, more spice than any of the other descriptors for noble hops. Yeah, man, and the finish is dry. It's soft on the palate. It's quite drinkable. How long has it been in the keg?
It's been in the keg for a month and a half.
For a month and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
it's a good one.
Yeah, I think you have to brew this with. I love all the lager yeast we've been experimenting with, but I think in this style there's something about that Czech Pilsner, just the Czech-Style lager yeast that I think you can just sort of taste the way it balances whatever malt bill you throw at it with those noble hops, and it just sort of does something pretty cool with the two things, because there's that. The malt character's right there in your face, and it's beautiful, it's elegant, but then there's that wonderful, noble zippiness that to me is what like beer tastes like, right? We've said this before, but I just remember as a kid taking a sip of like my dad's Lowenbrau and like that herbal, you had no idea what it was at the time, but like that's the predominant flavor of beer, right? Beer's since, for my palate, become a whole lot of other things, but you have to have that zippy, strange hop character in there, and Saaz delivers that in spades. So.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing with it just being like so low in alpha.
I know.
Like, what are we doing? But it's just the right oils, it's the right flavor compounds that even at that level of alpha, it's wonderful.
Yeah. It's still delivering, and that's good to know. And I think you might have compensated a little bit with quantity as well.
Yeah. I was trying. Yeah, the 2 ounces and 3.5 gallons for this style at flame out, which then would have essentially was a steep for hours. Because there isn't like there's a very subtle zippiness on the aroma, but most of it is captured flavor-wise, which I think is what you want. Like when you crack open a American macro lager, there's no real hop, but it's that first couple sips is very zippy.
Sure.
And then it just fades. Then you don't really get any after that. But this, it keeps coming, which is great.
Okay, let's talk Munich malt.
Yeah. So traditional Munich Type 1, Munich II from Weyermann, German malts, they're like 6 to 7 is Munich 1, and Munich II is like 9, 10-ish, 8, 9, 10-ish, right? What we're used to all the time is American Munich malt, like from Breeze, they've got light and dark, and their light is 10 Lovibond and their dark is 20 Lovibond.
Oh, yeah.
Which again is another reason why you see recipes in your favorite magazines, and if it just says Munich, the editors and the author of that article, the editors of the magazine, they're just giving you a big FU, right? They don't want you to actually be able to brew that beer, because you can be at 20 Lovibond all the way down to 5 or 6 in your Munich character. Same thing when someone just tells you chocolate malt. Like, it's a big FU. Yeah. So anyway, that's why I pointed out. That's why I try to always point out who the manufacturers are, because it does mean something. It really means something.
Replicate at home.
But this being Czech in nature, we're really pulling from like that German malting tradition. They probably had their own malting traditions, but today at least, the malts we have available to us, you have to be continental. You got to have those great German malts, and I figure those are the ones to pull. So the Caraaroma is from Weyermann, the thing is from Weyermann, and it's all Weyermann malt. So.
All right. Well, thanks
Great.
for the clarification. Very, very good. All right, this is beer number 1 from pick number 13 from the Jar of Destiny series. This is the Czech Amber Lager. A worthy addition to the series. Well done. It's quite delightful. Hopefully there's a lot left.
There's plenty left.
Okay, we'll have to make plans to do away with it.
We'll get some big pretzels.
Yeah, let's do that. You know, I still have that smoked porter, and it pours awesome. Just saying. That's not part of the series.
I could sit for a while and just alternate between this and the smoked porter,
Yeah.
this and the smoked porter, maybe some sausages, this and the smoked porter. That'd be great.
There you go.
It's a great way to
Now
spend
you're
an
talking
afternoon.
about it. Yeah, some barbecue. It's gonna be great. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something about this style. We are investigating, learning more, researching, and trying to make the best version of the BJCP styles from the Jar of Destiny. So hopefully you got some tips, and this is certainly a lager you should try at home. Like this video if you like it. Subscribe to our channel if you want to. For John and Mike, brew-dudes.com. Brew on.
Cheers.